What's up creatives, this is Tom, welcome back to another video. In this one, what I want to talk to you about is this. This is my handheld, pretty compact Blackmagic Pocket Cinema rig. It's kind of an alternative to the handheld rig that I showed before. This is quite a lot more compact, stripped down, less for sort of walking around handheld shots and more what I would use for something like a travel video where you're actually wanting to sort of run and gun around with the camera like this. I'm going to describe all of the parts used in the build and just sort of build it from the ground up. This is a much more simple build than my alternative rig. I'll link that video of course down below so you can see my sort of full build out with monitor, etc, etc. The things I really wanted to tackle with this rig is just battery life, making sure the camera has a long time of shooting time on it, and also storage. Those are the two main issues, or two main things I sort of set out to fix with this camera rig, but still wanted to keep it small enough for sort of keeping in a bag or backpack. Without further ado, let's jump into the build. Alright, so these are basically all the parts. So obviously we've got the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, obviously the main thing on the rig. On this camera at the moment, this is the Sigma 18 to 35mm f1.8, absolute classic, fantastic lens for this camera. Obviously the big difference between this rig and my last rig was that I just want this to be as portable as possible, almost like I'm shooting directly like I would with a DSLR. It's not going to be as stable for things like walking shots, but it will be perfect for basically everything else in between. The only real drawback with this rig is that you cannot obviously mount it on a tripod, so if you're wanting to do that, you're going to need to look at a different option. The screen on the back of the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera is absolutely fantastic, so that's one of the main ways that I've managed to cut down the size of the rig. No monitor, just relying on the sort of back screen on the Pocket 4K, but it's just such a good screen that you really don't need a monitor unless you need to get creative with your angles. So obviously using the small rig cage, just a really brilliant cage. First of all, absolute shout out to this guy on screen right now who basically just absolutely schooled me in the world of small rig cages, because turns out this is actually a NATO rail, which means that you can get a handle, a top handle like this, and literally just mount it straight onto your camera and then tighten it up with no need to get an additional rail adapter. So who knew, eh? So there's an option for this rig at the end if you want to do that. Alright, so let's screw in this SSD holder. Once again, I'm using this small rig multi-tool, just such a useful piece of equipment for this type of thing. Alright, so that's in now, and what we can do is obviously slide the SSD in here and secure it just by tightening this bolt. Next up we have this V-mount sort of cheese plate thing, which basically this was sort of the back of my last rig if you've seen that video. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to mount this underneath the Pocket 4K onto this section here, and that's going to mean we can mount the battery directly underneath the rig. Alright, so once that's on there like that, we can grab the V-mount battery. This is obviously quite a large V-mount battery, means I can shoot for pretty much most of a full day with the Pocket 4K. You could swap this out for something smaller if you didn't need quite this large capacity. It obviously does make the rig a little bit more heavy, but personally I like to just be guaranteed on the amount of battery that I'm going to get. And this slots in just like this, and then you are clipped, all pretty much ready to go, and that is actually the rig pretty much formed. So we are pretty close now to having a complete rig. We obviously just need the wires and the connections just to make this a little bit more final. I also have this cable protector thing here, so we're just going to screw that in now. And then we have these standard cables. This is just a standard SSD cable for the, or USB 3 cable for the SSD. So let's put that in now. Just like that. And then we have a standard D-tap power cable as well. That will just go into the side of the Pocket 4K down here. just like that, and then we're in with all of the cables. You could swap this SSD cable out for one that is slightly smaller, or you can just sort of tie these together using an elastic or Velcro tie. But as you can see, that is pretty much the rig. It is very, very easy, very quick to set up, and you basically have yourself an entirely functional handheld rig. It's going to be a bit heavier than your standard DSLR, but overall this is a great choice for run and gun filmmaking. And then, as mentioned, if you want to, you can go ahead and get a top handle and just whack this on to the top of the rig, just like that. And then you are all set for a run and gun filmmaking solution. There you go, guys. Hopefully you have found this video useful and or helpful. As you can see, a fairly compact option for a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera rig. I can't wait to take this traveling with me and actually have it as an option for proper handheld travel shooting. All of the parts, of course, will be listed down below in the description. Let me know if you have any questions or suggestions down below in the comments, and I'll catch you guys next time.